Hello everybody and welcome to Bright Weird. Interesting subject today and one that I've been wanting to cover for some time. Been researching this on and off for about 18 months. This is the Bembine Table of Isis. Okay, so I suppose I ought to start by saying what is the Bembine Tablet? Well, first of all, it's got many names. It's known as the Bembine Tablet, the Bembine Table of Isis, the Mensa Isiaca, the Isiac Tablet, the Isiac Tablet of Cardinal Bembo. Many different names for it, but it's all the same thing. And what it is an elaborate piece of bronze with an enamel and silver inlay. It's most probably of Roman origin, but it's in the ancient Egyptian style. Okay, so I just mentioned there that the tablet is regarded generally of being of Roman descent rather than that of Egyptian origin. And it dates to sometime possibly in the 1st century AD. Little is known about its history until after the sack of Rome in the year 1527, when a certain Cardinal Bembo acquired the tablet from a locksmith or ironworker into whose hands the tablet had fallen. After Bembo's death in 1547, the tablet was acquired by the Gonzaga rulers of Mantua, and it remained in their museum until the capture of their city in 1630 by Ferdinand II's troops. The tablet then passed through various hands until the French conquest of Italy in 1797. Alexander Lenoir mentioned in 1809 that it was on exhibition in the Bibliothèque Nationale. After Napoleon's downfall, it was returned to Italy and became a central exhibit in what is now the Museo Egizio in Turin, and that's where the tablet remains today. So what does the Isiac table actually look like? Well, Athanasius Kircher described the tablet as being 5 palms long and 4 wide. William Wynn Wescott said that it measures 50 by 30 inches. Now, no video would be complete without a good prop, and here is the Bembine Table of Isis. A faithful reproduction, 50 inches by 30 inches. Okay, so the Bembine table is extremely difficult to make out in this format, but fortunately in 1559 the celebrated Aeneas Vicus of Parma made a faithful reproduction, and it's much easier to make out the detail on the table with his copy. So on the rear of my prop we have a copy of that, which is much easier to make out. Now I'll just point out the main regions to you so you can see them. We've got the upper section here with 12 characters in it. It's split into groups of 3. Each one has got a central figure. The central section here has 21 characters in it, and a central figure in a portal, more on that later. And the lower section also has 12 characters in it, set in groups of 3, 3, 3, and 3 again. All the way around the outside there's an elaborate border full of hieroglyphs, and the areas between each section, if you look very closely, you can see that they are adorned with small hieroglyphs as well. The tablet itself is made of bronze with an enamel and silver inlay. The figures are cut very shallow and the contours of most of them are delineated with silver wire. The bases on which the figures were sat were covered with silver, which was later torn away, probably for its monetary value. These sections are left blank in the engraved reproduction that I'm showing you now, and it's an important example of ancient metallurgy, its surface being decorated with a variety of metals, including, as I mentioned, silver, but also gold, copper, gold alloy, and various base metals. One of the metals employed is black, and it's made by alloying copper and tin and small amounts of gold and silver, and then picking it in organic acid. This black metal is possibly a variety of the Corinthian bronze, which was described by Pliny and Plutarch. Now there are certain characters on the reproduction of the Isiac tablet, which is this one here, that don't appear on the original. Now they're there to help you in understanding what each character is. Now William Wynn Wescott wrote a fabulous book, the Isiac Tablet of Cardinal Bembo, and in his book he refers to certain letters which aren't on the original. And those letters are here. If we look carefully in the central region, there's an O, there's a Q, there's an R, there's an X, there's a Y, and there's a Z over there. And the same, every character has got a letter or a symbol next to it. And that's to make life easier for you when you're reading a companion book, so you know exactly what you're looking at. Now, to make life as easy as possible, I've made the William Wynn Wescott book, which is in the public domain. I've made it as an audio book, and I've placed a very good quality of this reproduction on the screen. Now, the idea is that you sit down and you watch the companion audio book that I've done on the biggest television that you can, 50 or 60 inches, stand as close to it as you can, and you can actually see the real detail in between everything. And as the book goes through, I'll be referring to look at character X, and X means this or Y means that. And it's a much easier way to understand the book, certainly easier than reading it. When considering anything that's written in the language of symbolism, we should remember that the initiate to the mysteries would see something and understand something very different to what the Hierophant would from exactly the same pictorial image. And that should be remembered certainly with the Isiac Table. And it should certainly be remembered when we look at the various interpretations by different people throughout the ages. Okay, let's have a look at William Wynn Wescott's interpretation of the Isiac Table. You can see here that there's three main sections. The upper section is split into 4 boxes or 4 triads or trinities. The central section is split into 7 triads or trinities. And the lower section is split into 4 triads or trinities. Let's talk first about the upper section. There are 4 main fields, and they are representing earth, air, fire and water, or Aquarius, Taurus, Leo and Scorpio, or winter, spring, summer and autumn. So if we took a look at the top left-hand box, that represents Aquarius, or air. In that box you see Aquarius, Pisces and Capricorn. That's what the 3 triad figures on the Bembine table in that area represent, and that represents winter. The next one along is Taurus, which represents earth. Taurus, Gemini and Aries are in that field, and that represents spring. The next field along is Leo, which represents fire, and Leo, Cancer and Virgo form the 3 characters of that trinity, representing summer. And Scorpio is the top right-hand box, which represents water. Scorpio, Libra and Sagittarius are in that field, and that field represents autumn. Okay, now let's look at the central section, which is split into 7 fields. Now the main central section is what I want to focus on here. Now essentially there's a left and a right hand side which represents the duality of nature, male and female, light and dark, Hermes, Isis, and bang smack in the centre is a central seated figure in a portal or canopy. And this is the pantomorphic IY and X, the emblem of the universal being, and corresponding as such to the Hebrew Yod, or that unique letter from which all of the other letters were formed. Now, Levi hinted that perhaps the 21 characters in the central section represent the 21 major trumps of the tarot cards, but not the 0 card. The 0 card belongs nowhere on this table, because the 0 card forms a 4th dimensional point from which they all emanated, and consequently is broken up into 21 cards or letters which when gathered together produce the full or 0. Now let's take a look at the lower section, which is split into 4 boxes. Now, like the rest of the tablet, there's a lot going on here, but I won't go into too much detail. Essentially, it's associated with the 4 quarters of the horizon. It represents our view of the dimension of all things, the 4 cardinal or superficial points. So for a full understanding of the Bembine Table, I do recommend that you read Wescott's book, which I've done as an audio book on my channel with visuals to help you understand it better. But if I was to conclude what I think this thing is, so the Bembine Table of Isis is the root of the tarot card system, the ancient Egyptian tarot system, which was in place thousands of years before charlatans and card players came along and bastardized such a beautiful thing. It could also be a planned view of a layout for a ritual ceremony with all of the relevant actors and what position they need to be in within the temple. And that's certainly worth considering. But what is it? What really is it? Now, I've done a lot of thought personally on this subject. And if you ask me, I think that the Bembine Table is a psycho-spiritual tool for manipulating higher states of consciousness and opening portals to higher psychological dimensions. Real, tangible places where your body cannot travel. Hey, look, perhaps I'm just blowing it all a little bit out of proportion here and going a little bit crazy, but if I'm even a little bit right, I'm now in possession of one of these, which, as a psycho-spiritual tool, makes a Ouija board look like snakes and ladders. So I ought to be careful. I hope you've enjoyed this video. It's sort of the conclusion of quite a bit of research that I've been doing on the subject, and I've got several more years worth of research on this very topic, if I'm to be quite honest. I hope that it inspires you to go off and read William Wynn Wescott's book on the Bembine Table and its occult significance, because it's a real hive of information and really will open your mind up to the entire topic. But before I go, I'm just going to leave you with this short passage. A manuscript by the Neoplatonist Thomas Taylor, who lived from 1758 to 1835, contains the following remarkable paragraph. Plato was initiated into the greater mysteries at the age of 49. The initiation took place in one of the subterranean halls of the Great Pyramid in Egypt. The Isiac Table formed the altar before which the divine Plato stood and received that which was already his, but by which the ceremony of the mysteries enkindled and brought from its dormant state. With this ascent, after 3 days in the great hall, he was received by the Hierophant of the Pyramid and given verbally the highest esoteric teachings, each accompanied with its appropriate symbol. After a further 3 months' sojourn in the halls of the pyramid, the initiate Plato was sent out into the world to do the work of the great order, as Pythagoras and Orpheus had done before him. I'm Steve. This has been a very brief overview on the Bembine Table of Isis. This is Bright Weird. Thanks for watching.